We'll get into our last Q&A, which will be somewhere around 15 to 20 minutes, moderated by Nandi from Solano County.
Hi, everybody. Wow, what a great forum we had today. So I have a couple of questions for you guys. So my first question is for all of you. What motivated your jurisdiction to pursue projects, policies that addressed embodied carbon?
I'll speak first. And I probably already mentioned this is the environmental preservation and sustainability is always in our county's DNA. Our board are very, very progressive. 2-3 decades ago, we already passed many ordinance and policy to really require the county facilities or the residents guideline for their new building or the county infrastructure to be really green, to cut off the carbon footprint. So hopefully I'm just kicking off.
Yeah, in Contra Costa County, it was more, like I said, we were coming at it from a waste reduction standpoint. So that was our stretch goal, was to see, what kind of maximum diversion rate we could hit. So again, that sort of overlapped with the embodied carbon, but we weren't specifically looking at embodied carbon, but we were looking for other sustainable goals to pursue. And so that's the one that we had chosen as particularly appropriate for this project.
Yeah, following Eric, pretty much the same for Palo Alto, especially in our zero waste group. We were hoping to reach our diversion goal, at the same time also bring awareness on the embodied carbon reduction in the future.
As everyone's saying, ambition for San Francisco not to be outdone. Friendly competition, but really how operationalizing it really started from props to my own department environment from founding from Zero Waste and Green Building 20 plus years ago, trying to initiate like down cycle. Now from the climate action plan in 2021, operationalize embodied carbon, it really started putting more timelines on what we should do. And then establishing our consumption-based emissions inventory target, I think solidified that narrative.
Thank you. So my next question is for Mabel. Can you talk about the Bay Area Deconstruction Working Group? How do local governments get involved?
Sure. So the Bay Area Deconstruction Working Group, it started back in 2017. It's when we in the Bay trying to understand what Portland is doing with their very first, I believe, nationwide first deconstruction ordinance. And so from there, we also started talking about what we can do in the Bay. And as we develop our ordinance, we share our progress. And very recently, in fall of 2024, San Francisco is actually kind of reconvened that group and did four meetings in a series trying to discuss bridging gaps for procurement and reintegration or reuse of the reclaimed materials. So that was a really great conversation to have, and I'm so excited that San Francisco is looking into this. So then, like you said, Brian, we can like bounce idea between different jurisdictions as well. I believe Emily or someone in the team shared the website to the Bay Area Deconstruction Working Group. So maybe we can share that one more time. There you can find more of our meeting agendas and future meetings agenda as well.
Emily, I think you posted it. Oh, there you go. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Emily.
So Eric and Sam, this question is for you guys. Do you think these projects will influence future county construction projects?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That we're trying to pioneer stuff, that that the sustainability committee and the sustainability planners are looking at, potentially like following Marin's example for low carbon concrete. So yeah, I think having a county example that, it can be done, and it can be done, well, I think really does help influence both future county projects as well as, the future direction of the county in regulating, other private projects as well.
Thank you, Eric. So yes, ever since we design and construct the new county office building with mesh timber and the CLT, we start to emulate our second wellness center project in South City. That is kind of a clinic building and combined with a human service agency and some district attorney function over it. The North County of San Mateo. And it is also designed with mesh timber. Now, the current administration's tariff definitely has some impact because if you were to import it, the woods from Canada, that would be an impact. Yeah, but we're hoping, this issue is going to be resolved. Yeah, thank you.
This one is for Brian. Can you expand a little bit more on the sufficiency concept in municipal infrastructures?
As I mentioned in it's something I just kind of really kind of conceptually got into. So I don't know if I can expand upon it more other than what I already said, but I will say that there are some projects in the Bay Area. I think Deep Pave Park in Alameda Island has really looked at that as a core concept. It's basically first starting in it's almost like a zero waste or waste reduction hierarchy. Like, don't use first. If you got to do something new, just spec it low, and then anything you can't do, just offset the rest. But I know that, is it Toronto? I've been meaning to talk to them. They've tried to embed that within their design and construction guidelines for infrastructure. So it can also tie in with green infrastructure. Why break up this concrete that served its purpose and probably has a longer lifeline just to put in a new one, right? We see that every day. So opportunity to reuse what's already there and limit how much materials you actually have to use on a site. We kind of already have that. Eric kind of talked about it in the foundation of concrete, just didn't. I don't know if it was piers or forget what it was, but just didn't have to pour new ones and do the whole rigmarole of bringing in trucks and everything. So we actually have a project that we're designing with that is reusing foundation from a project we're doing an adaptive reuse. It's a municipal project. Conversion from a MTA headquarter from a used to be animal care control to MTA headquarter, and the architects designed and said, well, why tear up the foundation? Just don't do it. So conversations early helped us in that sense. So that's a form of sufficiency.
Thank you so much, Brian. This next question is for all of you. Have the cost impacts of the deconstruction requirements been evaluated? How does refinishing materials factor into the equation? And how do savings for reuse of materials compare?
So I could say for our experience, there probably wasn't a ton of cost savings in it. I mean, right now, I don't think there, kind of with a circular economy, it was hard to find vendors that could deal with the kind of material transformations that we wanted to do. So, and I knew that going in, as a sort of a pioneering project, you're going to be facing difficulty finding vendors that can do what you want. So we were looking at it more as a triple bottom line kind of thing. Yeah, this may not be a cost savings thing, or maybe a small cost savings, maybe even a small cost increase, but the examples, the doing it, the trying to get people looking at it will just help, I think, get more people, involved in doing that kind of work to make it more available for the next project. So we were definitely not looking at it as a cost savings. And we did achieved some cost savings in some parts of it, but I think overall it probably was a wash. It was definitely hard to find people that could handle that kind of material transformation.
Yeah, I share a little bit in the Q&A, but for a typical residential home a deconstruction project, it is more expensive on strictly the contract with the deconstruction contractor. Also, it's increased time and labor, right? If a traditional demo of a 2,000 square foot house, maybe 2-3 days. But for a very well done deconstruction and salvage project, it could take two whole weeks. So that alone is an increase in labor cost. However, the disposal cost is a little cheaper if you are source separating. And if the homeowner choose to do their tax deduction process, then there is an offset on this increased deconstruction cost. And that's something that we always mention and encourage, but not required, obviously, the homeowner to do.
Mabel, I like that direction you took it into. My answer would, maybe a pivoted an answer, is it doesn't have to be more expensive, right? Like certainly the initial capital might be more expensive, but I bring up this stat as a good future design alliance did an assessment. About 35% of C&D waste is attributed to errors made during the design phase. So basically, rework or do-overs is 30% of the construction and major cause of waste. So designers play a key role, and the important thing we're all making is collaboration and communication upfront as far much in the design phase, so that you don't extend those or you minimize delays in the project schedule, which costs more money. So as with anything sustainability, it requires us to really think things holistically. And if we can do it right in these particular projects, I think it actually will save you money if you do the full analysis.
If I can add one quick comment on that, this is why every time I meet with a project team on a deconstruction project, I talk to the general contractor and the architect. I hope the next building you're drawing up, it's taking deconstruction capability in consideration, because I know the house you're about to build after taking this down, that isn't included, but I need you to start thinking about that. Or the next 30 years, I'll be repeating the same thing to every single deconstruction project in Palo Alto.
Yeah, within San Mateo County, it is a county's policy, the county-owned facility. We have to deconstruct, separate the materials, and just recycle, and that's a must. On the COB3 project, luckily we don't have too much demo. There's one historical landmark building which is called Lathrop House. So what we did is that we just relocate to across the street, right next to the historical museum, so we don't have to do any deconstruction. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all. So the next question is for Eric. What factors made reuse of the foundation possible? What would have made reusing the foundation infeasible?
I think what made it possible was, hopefully, I think we really tried to emphasize to the team the overall goal of waste diversion, and so I think that gave them an umbrella under which to really look at innovative approaches. I really give a lot of kudos to the structural engineer Tipping for trying to figure that thing out. I think what would have made it unfeasible is if they had thought that they really needed to do a similar foundation, but luckily we were going from a 12-story building to a 3-story building that was spread out, and so they felt confident that a mat foundation over those existing piers, as long as they did the fill right, in the existing basement, they could achieve the same level of compaction and strength to the subsurface that they needed to make the mat foundation, that they could obviously certify it for the performance that it needed to have. And so I think a lot of it was just creating an environment where with that early collaboration that Brian is always talking about as a design build project, we were really pushing that from the earliest engagement with the contractor to bring innovation forward. So I think that was really the biggest thing. And what really also helped was the ability of the demo contractor to be able to separate out the concrete that we were demolishing from the structure. We found a local, in Contra Costa County materials group that could grind that back into the fill that came back in to fill the basement. So again, we were, it was another thing of taking material, off-site, transforming it, bringing it back on site. So there was over like 2,200 tons of concrete that we salvaged from the project site to put back in. And I think, that went a long way toward making it a cost-effective solution rather than having to bring in all of that new fill. So, we did create some carbon transferring that out and back, but again, it was a local thing. And I think overall keeping all of that on site was another sort of large embodied carbon kind of win for the project.
So this next question is for all of you again. Sam showed an analyst tool that his project used for embodied carbon. Can you start off and tell us more about that? And do other panelists have other tools they've used that they can share as well?
Yeah, thank you. I don't know specific the tool name. So what happened, we retained a consulting firm, Atelier 10, under SOM. And I think they have very much using this environmental analytical tool, which I can find out from them, that do all kinds of analysis based on the the materials, the square footage, and the footprint, etc. So that's something I can certainly get back to you.
Does anybody else have any tools?
No, like I said, we were really more focused on the waste reduction. So I've got, good waste reduction kind of tools and forums and stuff like that. But yeah, we weren't focused on embodied carbon yet. I'm really learning about sort of carbon accounting now and figuring out how we're going to incorporate it into future projects. So I'm just as interested in looking at Sam's tool and whatever else we can find that would help us do that.
Yeah, pretty much same here. I'll have to check with our building official and see if they have already acquired something for the larger community calculation.
All right. Well, I'm going to ask one wrap-up question before we move on. And since we're almost near time, everyone be maybe a little brief. So to bring it back to codes, did you guys face any building code issues, or do you anticipate any building code issues? For example, related to structural requirements, fire code? Did you have to convince any regulatory bodies to get on board with your projects or efforts?
We didn't really.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say we didn't really confront any yet on that, because it was more just, like I said, it was more getting the certifications of the strength of the concrete, having to extend the testing, from the normal 28 or 30 days out to 56 days to get the strength. So I could see that potentially being a problem with low carbon concrete in the future. But other than that, that was really probably the biggest hurdle we faced.
Our experience is primarily because this is a Type 5, lumber or timber project, and the local jurisdiction does not have that kind of a prior experience. So it's becoming very stringent about the fire code and whatnot. So in some areas we have to double the density of the sprinkler head, etc. So that's something, is probably going to be a trend in the state of California. That's something I think, especially from the fire department's perspective, is going to be something that definitely needs some communication, and how did other states like British Columbia, Washington, and Oregon, how do they comply with the code requirements? So this is something quite new in the state. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, I do want, if Brian and Mabo have answers, maybe drop them in the chat, since I think we do need to pull up our last slide. If Lun or Sam want to share the presentation again. All right, so we are at the end. It's amazing how 3 hours flies by, at least for me. Hopefully you all felt the same way. Slides will be posted at this link. And again, you'll get an email with this so you can revisit it later. And if we go to the last slide. Okay, feedback is super important for us. We host these forums quarterly, so 4 times a year. This is our first one of this year. We want to hear if this was helpful to you, what other forum topics you'd like to hear about, and you could win a free solar phone charger. So please, please, please fill out this survey. You can scan this QR code now before it turns noon. And we'll also send an email link to the survey after, but it really helps us and it only takes a few seconds, so please do it. And I think that's the last slide. So just again, thank you all for coming. I know it's a lot to spend 3 hours of your day with us, but we really hope that these BayREN forums give us an opportunity to dive a little deeper into a topic that I think we're all very curious on. And so thank you to all of our great speakers. Thanks to the BayREN County staff for helping to organize this, and all of you attendees for giving us a reason to keep having these events.